Welcome back to the Dynasty Happy Hour. I'm your sun-soaked host, Doug Eddy. I'm here with James, FF Chef himself, and Tyler Gunther, DHH_Tyler, for you keeping score at home on Twitter. And if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. Drop a like and subscribe to the channel. 99% of the people that are watching this video are not subscribed. So get with it and subscribe to Dynasty Happy Hour on the YouTubes. Much appreciated. Guys, I had a great experience yesterday drafting my Scott Fishbowl team at the Lansdowne Pub in Boston, Massachusetts, with 47 other diehards, and our host Bob was there as well, not drafting, but kind of keeping everything organized. And I got to say, I think we hold the record for fastest Scott Fishbowl draft in history. We got all 22 rounds done in about 3.5 hours on site. Absolutely amazing effort. And if you haven't seen the pictures of the draft board on Twitter, check that out. It is the straightest, cleanest draft board you're ever going to see, courtesy of yours truly, who did every sticker except for one round when I took a break to eat a burger. So that's where I'm at. James, what's going down there in New Jersey?
Chilling, loving summertime.
So much
detail. Oh no, beach yesterday, bar crawl today for a buddy's 30th birthday.
He is crawling.
And I crawled to the mic this afternoon to get this show on the road. But I'm excited. I'm excited to hear that your SFB team is complete.
Doesn't mean it's good, but it's done.
It's not as good as mine, but I'm still only in the 13th round of my draft, and I'm looking forward to
Speaking of crawling,
continuing.
Am I right?
Hey, I'm not the last league.
I was in one of the slowest last year.
I know there's one
brutal.
Still in the 7th round today. So yeah, it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
No thanks. Tyler, what's going on in Minnesota?
Nothing. I had a good day.
Are you feeling Minnesota?
Oh, that's a lot of detail.
I mean,
nothing.
I kicked one of those giant
baby.
Like no, God no. One of those like bounce. They're huge balls that you get for like $3 at Target or Walmart. I was kicking those really high up in the air with my son in the backyard and my daughter. Had a bunch of fun doing that. We got a couple sick kids, so we're dealing with that.
Fun.
You know, the pout fish style kids we got. But other than that, it's been really good. It's gonna be a good week, and we're getting closer and closer to actually having some real football to watch.
Oh, yeah, and having some real news to go over. There's not much.
Sorry.
Your little
for the
pause
today.
Yeoman's effort for
little pause, like throw up pause, was just about right with the whole entire news.
Yeah, it's like not much going on. So before we get into some news and we break down the NFC and AFC South, did want to give a shout out to our sponsor. It's Fantasy Points. We're getting ready for a redraft season. We just did the Scott Fishbowl, which is a redraft league, but we got redraft coming up. Probably people are going to start drafting here at the end of July, early August, because if anybody knows how hard it is to get people together in one room if you're doing live drafts, it's me. I don't think I'm going to be able to make the Beantown Brawl draft this year, so I got to send a surrogate to carry my team to the championship, which is always interesting.
I get it.
So
a surrogate, carry. Yep.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love that joke.
Give birth to a championship. Let's go.
Yeah.
So Fantasy Points. You can use code DHH22, get 10% off a Fantasy Point subscription. 90% of subscribers have made the playoffs in the last 2 years, and it's going to be even better this year because they are absolutely stacked and yoked with content on Fantasy Points. It's the lowest price in the industry, analytic-powered draft tool, DFS optimizer. So, you know, if you like to play DFS, you're like, you know what, redraft's not for me, or maybe you drafted a team and it's week 5 and they've already crapped the bed and you're out of it. DFS is also live on there, so that's going to get you some value as well. Podcast network, just pretty much all the tools, draft sheets, everything that you need, you can find on Fantasy Points. So use code DHH22 and get that 10% off a Fantasy Point subscription today. All right, we're going to talk NFC and AFC after this awesome news that we have, guys. It is just
can't wait for this
deep
news.
Cuts of news. There's so much going on. Let's start in San Francisco. It's not about Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not about George Kittles and bits. It's not about Deebo Samuel getting traded. It's not about Trey Lance.
Okay, thank God.
Who else could it be about then? I mean,
Brandon Ayuk.
It's not about Juwan Jennings, but it is about Brandon Ayuk. So his performance during minicamp wasn't what you would expect from a veteran receiver, according to Jack Hammer. Is that his real name?
I guess so.
Okay.
I don't believe it.
I think that's sus, but whatever. Of the Santa Rosa Press Democrat, we know what we've always talked about these Niners beat reporters, and now there's one called Jack Hammer, and I'm on tilt.
His name is
Jack Hammer. I think James just realized the info that he just
David
gave.
He
Jack
really
Hammer.
nailed the press content. Jackhammer.
So it looks like Brandon Ayuk, the third-year receiver himself, struggled with drops and wasn't on the quote-unquote same page as second-year quarterback Trey Lance after the two spent some time working together in the offseason.
Which is hilarious because everything I've seen from those videos, they seem to be just fine. So
It's like almost like the Niners beat writers just want to stir up the pot because they're bored.
The players on the
Like, hey,
Niners.
Jimmy Garoppolo had an ice cream sandwich, but instead of vanilla ice cream, it was chocolate ice cream. That's
Trey
news.
Lance
Trey Lance had vanilla.
a vanilla ice cream sandwich.
Which means he doesn't have that dog in him because he got vanilla and doesn't like flavor.
Yep.
Like that, it's ridiculous. Like, where are we getting this? Like, Brandon Ayuk, he doesn't need to be the guy. Debo's the guy. Kittle's the guy. All Ayuk has to do is get those 4 catches a game, and he could break one. Like, Ayuk's a perfect wide receiver 4 or 3. I'd say more of a 4, but if he's your 3, you're fine because he's got major upside with Trey Lance. I'm fading all Niners reports because all it is it's Trey Lance, it's Brandon Ayuk. What's next? Deebo Samuel once again might feel like leaving San Francisco.
Yeah. All right. Ayuk to me is like he started off in the doghouse last season, and we all got scared, and then he finished pretty strong, right? This just seems a little volatile. I think that his momentum was going up in the second half of the season. We saw him put together a solid second half of the season, and he was a decent wide receiver 3 in fantasy for you. And we all know like Ayuk's talent. He was a first round pick. He was better than N'Keal Harry, clearly.
Oh yeah.
So this is an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Do you think this opens like a nice little window to go and acquire Ayuk from the owner that might be like, I'm sick of this like up and down and I just want to like wash my hands of him?
I think if you're looking for a low-end wide receiver 3, high-end wide receiver 4 to fill in gaps, bye weeks, et cetera, flex options, I don't think he's a bad target to go after. I think he does have upside, but he's not very consistent, and he does have competition for targets on that roster. We don't know how much they are going to throw the ball with Trey Lance, and we can guarantee that he's not the number 1 target on the team. So he's a decent play. I think he keeps that mid-range wide receiver 4 floor for fantasy. So he's an okay player for me.
Okay. I agree with that.
Yeah. Dave in the chat even said, there's such big volume concerns, run heavy team, third option, new quarterback. You know what? The thing is his price is kind of devalued already to where I don't think those worries are with the price. So for me, I think Dynasty Trade Calculator last I checked had Ayuk before the season ended at like 21. Like it was pretty high. And now I think it's at 11, which I think is too low. So George Pickens, last I checked, was around 14, 15. So who'd you rather have, Pickens or Ayuk?
That's tough.
I'd have to go with Ayuk.
For me, it's very tough. And for me, it's pretty much eye of the beholder. Like, do you believe Pickens is the next coming? Do you think Deontay is going to get a contract? Do you think Pickett is the guy? And for me, I'm going to go with AKA Trey Lance, who everybody hates in San Francisco, apparently. But for me, Trey Lance is easily the bigger talent at quarterback, which will help and push up Ayuk's value. And you may be able to get a better
if Trey Lance hits this year and he's the starter in week 1 and he does everything we think he's going to do, like it's the rising tide lifts all boats, as they say. So everyone on that team from a dynasty perspective is going to gain value if Trey Lance is what we think he's going to be. So yeah, I mean, if you can go out and acquire Ayuk, I think if that happens, then it's going to increase in value.
Yeah, and I'll just give you an Ayuk trade. In a league, Doug and I are in the UDPL. I actually acquired Ayuk, but it was part of a bigger deal. It was CeeDee Lamb and Melvin Gordon, and I got AJ Brown and Brandon Ayuk. So for me, the kind of outcome where Ayuk can rise big time, I'll take that, where Melvin Gordon's kind of capped. And yeah, CeeDee Lamb can go up, but can he go up any more? He's wide receiver 3 right now in Dynasty. And I think him and A.J. Brown are a lot closer than I think.
Real fast. I mean, I love how you said A.J. Brown there, but Brandon Ayuk is wide receiver 32 right now on DLF, currently right ahead of Drake London, Jameson Williams, Michael Thomas, Chase Claypool, Mike Williams, Chris Olave. Me personally, I would like to have Olave, Drake London over Brandon Ayuk.
Is that ADP or is that rankings?
That's ranking super flex.
I would say ADP is going to be a lot different. People are going to be drafting the rookies a lot earlier.
Yeah, London's going to go ahead of Ayuk and ADP for sure. Like probably by a decent amount, I would think too.
Yeah. All right.
Like a good 15, 20 spots.
Well, James is checking that. Yeah. Well,
yeah, let's move on. So we got some IDP news for everyone that plays IDP out there. Met some of the IDP guys.
From
their website yesterday. Free agent cornerback Jason McCourty announced his retirement from the NFL after 13 seasons. One of the best plays in Super Bowl history, in my opinion, against the Rams when they passed to Brandon Cooks in the end zone. And McCourty was there and made an unbelievable play to bat that pass because the Rams would have tied the football game, I believe. So shout out to Jason McCourty, Patriot legend. And got to play with his twin brother, Devin, on the same team, that mind meld in the secondary. Really cool to watch. He's 35 years old. He was the 203rd overall pick in the 2009 draft, and he lasted for 13 seasons. Talk about value, right? He appeared in 173 games, 18 picks, forced 9 fumbles, broke up 108 passes, and the most important one of all time, to get himself a Super Bowl ring, was in that Super Bowl against the Rams. So thank you, Jason McCourty, for your service. Devin McCourty, still a Patriot. All right, the Seattle Times' Bob Condotta, not nearly as cool as our friend Jack Hammer over there in San Francisco.
Jack Hammer.
Jack Hammer owns the West Coast.
Better than Jack Mehoff.
I feel like he owns like some adult bookstores too, Jack Hammer.
Jack Hammer. Or he's in them.
True. Bob Condotta expects Rashad Penny to be the Seahawks' primary back and projects him to handle 20 carries a game until he explodes. Yeah. This is assuming Chris Carson in his neck doesn't play this season, as he continues to rehab from disc fusion surgery, a very serious injury. Penny averaged 20.25 carries per contest in his breakout stretch run that helped you win leagues last year to close out the season. And the plan will be to lean on him in what will be an even more run-heavy offense because they have no freaking quarterback because Russell Wilson's gone. Rookie running back Kenneth Walker, if you're cool, call him Ken, whatever you prefer, is expected to handle...
He prefers Ken. Excuse me.
Is expected to handle whatever is left. I don't know if I trust Rashad Penny to hold up with 20 carries a game for more than 4 to 5 weeks, but okay. I could see this being the plan going in. I think that Ken Walker, who I was on Twitter the other day, and I don't scroll as much as I used to, but someone was saying that Ken Walker is slipping, and he's like a late first-round pick in like super late rookie drafts, and I was like,
yeah.
Rashad Penny's on a 1-year deal, guys. He's on a 1-year deal.
Postponed a couple of my drafts.
Yeah, right. This is
Penny's on a 1-year deal. Like, this shouldn't affect Ken Walker's ADP all that much to see this type of news because Rashad Penny has never played more than 10 games in a season in his 4-year, going into his 4th year career, like, or 5th year. Is this his 5th year?
Who knows? I mean, combined, he's played a year. So
right, yeah, and he did help people win. This is a lot of recency bias because when players like this help Devontae Parker a couple years ago,
this is his
David Montgomery
going into his 5th season.
Right. So David Montgomery, Devontae Parker, Rashad Penny, Amon-Ra St. Brown, like, and I'm not saying any of those guys like can't be good the next year, but a lot of people remember that they had these awesome stretch runs to finish the season to help them win championships. So then they overvalue them. Oh, remember Alex Collins? You remember Myles Gaskin? It's the same thing. Like, this happens all the time. So I think that Rashad Penny's value is being really inflated quite a bit. So I think that Rashad Penny, to me, I don't really want much to do with. And if I could move him off my roster with this news, I think I would do that. And I wouldn't really miss him all that much, to be completely honest. What do you think, Tyler?
No, I completely agree. And like James was saying, I made a mistake and I should have held off a couple of rookie drafts till later on because, man, if Ken Walker slip into the late first, that's going to be great value for people. He is such a good runner. And honestly, I don't think it's going to take long for Penny to explode. I think his hamstring tightened up when when Rashad Penny read this comment, when he's like, oh, he's going to handle 20 carries. Like, Penny's just sitting at home like, oh, God.
I'm cramping up, guys.
Yeah. Jackhammer.
Give me some pickle juice.
Yeah, It's like almost like, hey, this could be it. This could be the season where he lasts. And you know what? It never has happened. It's not going to happen. Hey, if he hits 8 games played, I would be shocked myself. That honestly, if he got 20 carries, 8 games of 20 carries, I would be shocked. And
160 carries sounds like the explosion point.
I mean, that's a very high bar. I would say he hits 100, a milestone, and then boom, poof.
I mean, I don't have him on any rosters, but if I did, I'm waiting until he does hit a potential breakout game this season, because he is going to get overutilized because there is no quarterback play. They're going to run the ball. He's going to be the primary back, and it's going to implode.
Draft 2 tackles.
It's going to implode. So as soon as he hits,
Dwayne Brown's not coming back.
Sell. Like you said, use this news to sell on Rashad Penny right now. Ken Walker is definitely the future on that franchise.
100%.
Yeah, so their first game is against the Broncos. Good luck.
Yeah, Broncos good.
Then they got the Seahawks. All right, then they get
they play themselves.
Then they play themselves and lose. Of course,
then they get the 49ers.
Yeah,
so that's not great. But then they play the Falcons, which is going to be a barn burner of a game, because we'll talk about the Falcons themselves.
Game of the week.
Be
Seahawks versus the Falcons.
ESPN 7.
Brought to you by Jackhammer.
Jackhammer. All right, let's move on. I did want to give a shout out to Trophy Smack. Awesome. I saw some of the videos from them hosting the Scott Fishbowl draft, and I got really jealous because I was like,
yeah,
they got arcade machines and
bowling
shuffleboard, a bowling. I'm like, well, I'm in a bar in Boston, which was nice, mind you, but I was like, it ain't this.
No.
So maybe I need to sign up for LA and just fly out next year and just do that.
I was thinking about that. I was pretty jealous.
Which would be kind of cool. But make sure you upgrade your fantasy league today. So if you just got done with hockey and basketball and you need a trophy, head on over to Trophy Smack. If you play football like us, baseball will be ending in the fall, so you can get your trophy then. But any sport that you play, and they're all completely customizable. James has his awesome customized belt with the Swedish Chef. Tyler was recently on the Podathon with Matt from Trophy Smack. Great guy. We met him in Canton last year. Whatever it is, Trophy Smack has the right trophy for you. And you can use code DHHRing and get a free $60 championship ring with the purchase of a trophy or a belt. They also have stuff for the losers of your league, because we don't want to forget about those guys. Once again, it's code DHHRing for that free ring at checkout. All right. We're going to cover the NFC first. Yeah, Jackhammer is not in the NFC. In the NFC South even. So let's talk about the NFC South. I'm going to start with Atlanta because that's Tyler's team.
Ooh.
And we saw a lot of movement with Atlanta in this offseason. We saw Matt Ryan get traded to the Indianapolis Colts. We saw them draft Drake London in the top 10 of the draft. Russell Gage went to fellow NFC South team Tampa Bay, so he's gone. Calvin Ridley is suspended for the year. They trade for Bryan Edwards. They draft Tyler Algier at running back. They re-signed Cordero Patterson, and Hayden Hurst walks in free agency. So Damian Williams signs. So that's my rundown on the Falcons, who have lots of activity, lots of targets available. So, I think everyone's assuming that, based on the targets available, the draft position, that Drake London is going to be the blow-up rookie this year. But they drafted Desmond Ridder, and they signed Marcus Mariota. So it's one of those things where they don't have an established running back, not running back, but a quarterback. And they don't have a running back either. So Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder, I know what James's answer is on that, but do you have faith that Drake London can be that big rookie receiver? Not like we've seen Chase and Jefferson, because I don't think anyone's going to do that. But can he be 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns in his rookie year, Tyler?
I would hope for that. That'd be great. I don't think it's going to happen.
And will Kyle Pitts catch more than a touchdown?
Kyle Pitts will catch more than a touchdown. Honestly, I would put the starting point at 5. So for me, I think Ridder starts week 1. I just have a hunch. He's going to go into the preseason. He's going to look good. And by preseason week 3, I would not be shocked if he starts the game. And then Arthur Smith has the decision, do we just roll with the rookie? Do we see what Mariota has? Honestly, I would not be shocked one bit if they're like, let's just throw the rookie in. Let's see what he's got. We're going to have an early pick next year, probably. Who knows? Maybe. I mean, we've seen crazier things happen. So if Ridder is is what I think James and myself personally, and Doug, I'm pretty sure you're on the
Ritter train now,
bandwagon.
Doug.
I like Ritter. He went in the 20th round of our Scott Fishbowl draft.
That's crazy. So
that was nuts.
So for me, if that happens, I could see a connection with him in London, and with Ritter being a rookie, he's going to target Pitts and London a ton. He's going to go to his big guys. He's going to go to the most talented players. If he's smart, which I think he is, and if you're smart, you're going to go to these crazy tall athletic players where you could throw the ball anywhere and they're going to get it. Ritter may not be the most accurate quarterback. That's okay. You don't need to be with these guys.
Yeah, their size gives you a little bit of leeway.
Oh, 100%. And for me, I mean, if I were to put a number on Drake London, I would probably put it at 60 to 70 for 900 to I'd say 1100 between
it's
there.
A 17 game season now, so yeah,
900 to 1100, and 5 to even 12 touchdowns, depending on what his usage in the red zone.
They're gonna score 12 offensive touchdowns.
London is so good at red zone jump balls. Like that's his thing.
I know it's his thing. I don't know. There's something about London and I won't go on a diatribe about it, but there's something about London that scares me a bit.
You know,
that's fair.
I understand that it's Tyler's team, and we started off with Tyler's team, so he's been talking about the Atlanta Falcons. But Drake Buckingham Palace London, he was one of the top 3 wide receivers in this class, drafted number 8 overall. He is the next Mike Evans.
Oh, let's not say that.
NFL. No. Let me, because he's about 10 pounds short of Mike Evans' size. All right. He's great at contested catches.
I could make a model of Clay the same size as Mike Evans, and it's not going to be Mike Evans.
He is going to be a fantasy asset for years to come. He's got the basketball background.
I'm not as sold.
You're not as sold, but you know what?
For me,
I saw the film, and for what he needs to do in that offense, he's a big target especially in the red zone. I think he makes it happen.
For me, it's the expectations. Like, I don't want expectations too high. This is the Falcons we're talking about. The Falcons. Like, let's not jump to conclusions and say he's going to be Mike Evans. Like, he could be good year 1 and still be very productive. Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase has ruined wide receivers, rookie wide receivers for fantasy football completely. Before, it was second year is their breakout. Like, and then before that was 3 years is their break. Yeah. Like, now we're just like, hey, I drafted this rookie. He's going to be a top 12 receiver. That's not what happened.
Well, I didn't say that.
No, I know, but I'm saying, like, we need to keep expectations.
We've been spoiled by Jefferson and Chase.
For sure.
Yes, and for me, let's keep those down, because we're going to be disappointed like crazy this year with receivers. Like, I love Garrett Wilson. I would not be shocked if Garrett Wilson gets 700 yards this year and 8 touchdowns. That's me, because I don't believe in this offense, the quarterback. But if Ritter or Mariota can show some signs of a good quarterback play, London will be a productive fantasy asset. So for me, if you got London, I would pencil him at wide receiver 4 for your team. Don't over exceed the expectation.
I wouldn't rely on him on a weekly basis until he starts to show production.
100%. But I am very excited for this offense. The offensive line needs to play better. This whole team needs to play better.
Backfield's wide open, I think, too, which is interesting.
Patterson, they're all over the place with reports. They say he's going to be the lead in the backfield. Then now reports came out last week where he's going to be utilized less in the backfield, and they want to use him at receiver and catching passes. So it's like, okay, like, let's not play his game. He's 31 years old. Let's stop the hype for Patterson.
Stay away from the backfield in Dynasty. That's
Tyler Algier will get a chance.
Goal line.
Will he succeed? I don't think so. I was not a fan. I mean, I have him in a couple leagues just because he's a Falcon. And hey, if he hits, he hits. But he reminded me a lot of Zach Moss on tape. So that's not a good sign.
All right, let's move on to the Carolina Panthers, who just acquired a new quarterback in Baker Mayfield to challenge Sam Darnold on that roster. That's the reports, is there's going to be a camp battle, whatever. It should be Baker's job to lose because Sam Darnold's still seeing ghosts after all these years. Christian McCaffrey reported to be 100% healthy. They brought in the backup for him, Donta Foreman, who looked really good in Tennessee last year when Derrick Henry was down. They still have Chuba Hubbard in that backfield, but I think Foreman is the backup to McCaffrey in the event that McCaffrey gets injured again. I'm hoping not, because I have a handful of McCaffrey shares on my teams. And then at wide receiver, they still got Robbie Anderson. They've got DJ Moore, who we all love. And then there's been reports that Terrace Marshall's running with the ones, and he is their wide receiver 3. At tight end, they don't use him a lot in this offense. Ian Thomas, forget about him in Dynasty. He's a blocking tight end. If you're going to go after a cheap tight end that you want to get that has upside as athletic, it's Tommy Tremble. So you heard that here. But the Panthers didn't really do a lot to move the needle when it comes to offensive pieces this offseason.
So McAdoo.
They do have
That's the needle.
They do have McAdoo, which
does
is
that move the needle down?
McAdoo,
I don't know if the needle could go any further down.
Yeah, so I think this offense, they did do some work on the offensive line, which I think is good. But I don't think we're going to see much of a difference in play with the Panthers. I think Mayfield is an upgrade over Darnold. I don't know. This one's a hard one to scout. There's a lot of players that I like on the Panthers, but I just don't know. DJ Moore is going to catch 4 touchdowns and 1,100 yards. He does it every year. That's probably not going to change. I guess the real key is, can McCaffrey, and we saw it last year when he was healthy, he was still averaging 20-plus points per game. There's been talks that they want to use him less, which makes sense. Him being injured the last 2 years and not really having an injury in his career up to that point. So he's still young. McCaffrey's still, I think, an elite fantasy asset, but it's one of those things. I think McCaffrey's tough. You're either confident that he's going to get this huge workload again and be a stud, or if he gets injured again, his value is going to tank.
I think you don't need to worry about value. If you've got him, you've got him. That's it. He's on your team.
Just ride it out.
Yeah, just ride it out, because he's worth more to you than he is in any trade.
I agree with that. And then as far as the receiving options go, DJ Moore and Terrace Marshall, I'm not touching Robbie Anderson. See you later. Bye.
Neither's Baker.
He's this OBJ type drama queen, almost retired.
Without
tells me
the talent.
He's checked out. He's like a fill-in wide receiver 6 on your dynasty roster. It's really not worth it to be there. But Terrace Marshall, he was an LSU Tiger, 2nd-round draft pick. He was on that
he flashed in the
amazing
preseason
team with Jefferson and Chase. He's a deep threat and could be the future after they let Anderson go next year. He's got 4.4 speed. I think now is the time to buy him because he did so terrible last year. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. I think these
his
guys
price
are
has
going to
gone
stick
up a little
around.
bit, but yeah.
I mean, with the Baker news, I'm assuming that all the pass catchers' value went up just a
And
little.
the reports on him too have been positive.
Yeah, and as far as Darnold goes, I hope you don't have him on any roster because he's not going to win this battle.
Yeah, Dave in the chat said how funny it would be if Darnold wins the
I saw
quarterback
that.
battle. If he wins, it just tells how bad Mayfield actually is.
I will eat my shirt if
Darnold wins. It's either
Scrooge
because
McDuck
Matt Rule
style.
doesn't know how to coach, or it's because Baker's actually really bad. So we'll know what Baker.
I actually think we haven't talked about Matt Corral yet, but I actually think with them getting Mayfield, maybe throw some offers out for Corral because people, they're very short-sighted because Baker Mayfield and Darnold are both free agents after this year. So you never know. And I think Corral's value has gone down a little bit. You can get him in the 3rd round in Superflex leagues. Maybe you want to give up a late 3rd next year.
I'd do that
because you really believe in Corral, and maybe he's the guy that competes for starter next year. You never know. There are some pieces in this offense that are attractive, so I mean it's not a bad situation for him whatsoever. And his draft stock before the injury was he was people's number 1 quarterback in this class a lot of the time. So very interesting. So I think that with the Mayfield news and all the other stuff, people are forgetting about Corral. So I think that the time might open up and try to go and acquire him too.
Yeah, and I agree with Tommy Tremble. Guy was drafted super high last year. Kind of a shock of the NFL draft, 3rd rounder, early 3rd rounder, and he's got a lot of upside.
Yep, I like Tremble. Like, really good athlete. They used him out of the backfield too, which was interesting to see. So definitely a player on the upswing that you can get in as a throw-in, right, Tyler? Hey.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the New Orleans Saints, who I think are low-key exciting this year. So they get Jameis Winston back after his ACL surgery. Taysom Hill is officially moved to tight end. They signed Andy Dalton to back up Jameis, so no more Taysom Hill at quarterback, although he'll probably take snaps there, let's be honest, because they're going to kind of keep it moving. The big thing for New Orleans is the Alvin Kamara suspension, right? We all don't know what it's going to be. Is it going to be 2 games, 6 games? We don't know. So until then, they didn't do much at the running back position. They still have Mark Ingram there, who I think can carry the load for a handful of weeks. They drafted the kid the undrafted free agent. What's his name?
Smith.
Abram Smith.
Yep.
Who a lot of people like in dynasty circles. They go out and get Jarvis Landry, so he's coming back home to the state of Louisiana. They draft Chris Olave. Hopefully they get Michael Thomas back. Didn't look clean running routes on Instagram a few weeks ago. And I think he's still a bit of a malcontent. So I don't know if I trust Michael Thomas as far as I could physically throw him. And then, Taysom Hill moving to tight end. What does that mean for Adam Troutman? Like, I like Troutman, but I think Hill is going to just destroy between the two of them. I think it's going to really hurt Troutman's overall potential with that team. But I actually like this offense a lot. With adding Olave as a field stretcher. We know what Jameis can do throwing the deep ball, so I think it's a really good match for him. And then having Landry and Thomas, if they're all healthy, I think this offense can be like low-key really good. I really like Jameis's growth last year before he got hurt, and he was a low-key Konami code quarterback. So Jameis was, I think he averaged 20 or 25 yards rushing a game, which over time adds up. He had some rushing touchdowns. He's slimmer. He's doing crazy workouts as usual. So I'm kind of in on New Orleans at a lot of their prices. James, what do you think about the New Orleans Saints?
I don't hate it. If everybody shows up, like you said, I quite enjoy Jameis Winston. He's a definite buy low right now. I think DLF ADP is at like QB 23. He finished his QB 33 last year, only playing 7 games with the 59% pass completion. But he had 17 fantasy points per game. So that's like a easy QB2 in Superflex leagues. And that was without Michael Thomas. That's without Landry. That's without Olave. I think
Marquez Callaway was the
I think if all three of these guys
preseason star
show up and Kamara isn't suspended, we will see a high-powered offense from the New Orleans Saints. I don't think they hold back. I think they're built to win now. They went out and acquired a veteran in Landry. They moved Taysom Hill to tight end, which I really don't want for dynasty purposes. I think it makes Troutman really a buy low right now for the future. And yeah, I don't have a problem with anybody on this team. The only big question mark is Alvin Kamara with the suspension. We don't know when it's going to happen. I would rather it happen the first 6 games because then he knows.
I mean, the incident happened in the end of January, early February, so you think we'd know something by now. Like,
I don't think so. I think it happens something like mid-season. Like, it's going to be great. Like, we're going to have 4 or 5 games with Kamara, and then suspension for 6, and then we won't see him again until the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, I would think it would get something like that would get done before the season, but just never know.
They're waiting for Watson. Like, that's the issue. Watson,
that's the big
whole Watson
jackhammer
case
to drop.
Is the whole entire thing. Like. And that we'll get going back to the Falcons, like this whole Watson suspension. If Watson gets 4 to 6 games, why is Ridley getting a full season? Like that's where it comes in. And Ridley held off on kind of the fighting back at it. But if this happens and Watson gets 4 to 6, Ridley should put his hat in and be like, hey, all I did was bet on a game I didn't even play in. I was out of the league, quote unquote, because of mental issues. Why am I out a whole year when this dude had 30 or so cases against him? Like that's another situation. Ridley's value is dirt right now, and he is one of the biggest buys because next year would not be shocked if his value is like a couple second rounders.
Interesting.
I don't know. I think New Orleans, they went 9-8 last year. I can see them being an 11 and
I can see them being a playoff team.
16.
The division is ungood other than Tampa. So
that is very true. Yeah.
For me, I'm actually kind of with Dave in the chat. I'm avoiding. I mean, we've been years and years into this whole Winston story. He may have gotten a little better, but he's a quarterback too for fantasy. And that's when he has when he has a job. Like for me, he is the biggest what's going to happen in a couple years. Him and Baker are kind of in the same path. Like, is this real? Is this not real? Like what is he? And I feel like we're just going to keep playing this game. So for me, like I'm also not a big Olave fan like everybody else is. I think he's a average player. He's Sterling Shepard. If you like not like 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns and maybe 90
when
catches,
did Sterling Shepard do that?
I'm saying for talent wise, like he's a great route runner, but he doesn't have the upside. He doesn't have that wide receiver 1 upside. He's a good player. And for me, I just don't see a huge wide receiver 1 upside for him, which everybody else sees. And I don't. I saw the tape.
I'd like to know who's labeling him as a wide receiver 1, because I personally
I wouldn't say that.
I would definitely say he has a wide
best.
receiver 2 ceiling.
Matt Harmon has him as the wide receiver 1 for his reception perception.
Well, that's kind of ridiculous. But I guess he's assuming that Michael Thomas isn't there when he has that projection.
Well, I mean, Michael Thomas.
If that's the case, then yeah, he does get a boost.
Are we really relying on Michael Thomas though?
No,
we haven't seen him play in 2 years. So
2 years.
I'm out on Michael Thomas.
I'm not drafting
honestly,
Michael Thomas.
I have a couple roster shares of Michael Thomas because he's so cheap. And if he does pan out, that's great. If you have to give a late second rounder for Michael Thomas, I'm good with that because the chances of him hitting over the second rounder, I'm good with that.
Luckily, someone offered me a 2022 first for Michael Thomas midseason, and I accepted that. So that was great.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, let's get off Taysom Hill. Like, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Sean Payton left. He was his boo. He's gone. It ain't happening.
Boo, boo, boo.
All right, let's move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they got a lot of interesting things happening
God.
as well. So Tom Brady retires and then unretires, so he's back for the 2022 season.
He looks old, by the way.
He is old. He's going to be 45. He's a year older than me.
His press conference, I don't know what it is, but is he turned into a skeleton? Because he's getting so skinny and
he's getting gaunt.
It's weird.
Yeah, so we got Tom Brady coming back, but this offensive line did suffer a lot of losses in the offseason. So I think that's one thing that a lot of people aren't talking about is that, like, this offensive line is not going to be quite as good as it was before. They lost Alex Kappa to the Bengals, and then Ali Marpet retired. Chris Godwin's coming back from an ACL. Reports he might be ready for the season. He might go on PUP. So that's kind of up in the air. Everyone's on Mike Evans. His stock is up. He should see a ton of targets. You know, they go and sign Russell Gage for $10 million. Significant money for Russell Gage.
Good for him.
Original Russell Gage stan, me and my boy Zach. I actually got one of the guys at the Scott Fish Bowl. He's like, Doug, the one thing I think of you, I think of Russell Gage. And I was like, I'll take that as the highest.
It was one of my first articles
I get to see Zach's
for
fist.
DHH.
Zach's fist, just like Arthur in that gif, just squeezing.
Zach is the original, but I was right
100%.
behind him, like early adopter for Russell Gage. So they signed Russell Gage. Rob Gronkowski retires for now, but it looks like it's going to stick. We'll see. And so that elevates Cameron Brate to the starting role, and they also drafted Kate Otten. And then in the backfield, Ronald Jones goes to Kansas City. They've got Keyshawn Vaughn there. Leonard Fournette is back, looking a little hefty here in the offseason. So we'll see if he slims down or not. And they draft Rashad White, who I like a lot. I thought he was a great value in the early second rounds of dynasty drafts. So Tyler, talk to me about this Tampa team. I think they should win the division, right? Like, they have Tom Brady. They should win the division, but I think the expectations are still like super high. And I could see this offense being a little bit of a struggle bus, at least early on, because you're missing guys like Gronk. There's no Antonio Brown. Chris Godwin coming off an ACL. Leonard Fournette is older. I think Rashad White may get an opportunity in year one. If Fournette goes down, White starter. Giovanni Bernard's still on the roster. No one cares. He's probably going to be gone. But I think this Tampa team is interesting because I think like people see that like, oh, they win the division. They won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Brady's back and everyone's pumped on it. But I'm pumping the brakes a little bit on Tampa.
Yeah, I hear that. And for me, it's all relying on Chris Godwin. Everybody's on Mike Evans. But if Chris Godwin's healthy week one, I think it's going to be back to kind of what the Patriots did when, at the end of Brady regime, where it's quick passes, just boom, get it out.
He was awful at the end of that year.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just super quick passes. Yeah. It was get the ball out quick to the playmakers, and I think that's what it's going to start turning into.
I mean, he's already like the first or second quickest getting the ball out of his hands as it is. So
yeah, so if that's the case and Godwin's healthy, he's an extreme value right now because people are kind of scared of Godwin, even in Dynasty, because he's getting up in age. I don't think so. He's 26. He's got a style of play that I feel lasts.
Mm-hmm.
if he comes in and even if he's 80%, he's going to catch easily 100+ passes this year because they're going to be quick passes. They're going to get it to Godwin. He's the run after catch guy for this team. And even Gage is kind of that style. Gage is kind of under like low key.
And Gage can throw beautiful touchdown passes too on trick plays.
Yeah. And Gage is just do it all. He can even play corner like he did for LSU for a couple of seasons.
I love Russell Gage.
Yeah. For me, I love Chris Godwin and his value right now. And that's really the only piece I want in this offense. I love Mike Evans. He was Mike Evans over OBJ early on in the career. That was me. Unfortunately, with his style of play, it's going to start declining faster than what we really want it to. So he's hitting 28. I think we got one more good year, and then you start seeing a fall. And honestly, it could just because Brady's gone.
Well, we see him fall after he catches the balls.
Exactly.
So
Torrey
Holt Jr.
He's definitely not run after the catch. I mean, yeah, for being that big, he's not very physical after the catch.
He's physical at the line, like to get separation. But like after
physical.
But for me in the running backs, I'm actually not a big Rashad White fan. So for me, he's too upright, too straight. Just go straight style of runner. With a bad offensive line or a younger offensive line, that's not going to really work out for him. So for me, it's Lenny or bust. And if you're a win now team, Lenny's a perfect RB2 for your team. Offer a second rounder for him because he could easily be a top 12 running back for you that is really cheap.
I know we're saying that their offensive line took a downgrade with Ali Marpet and Alex Kappa not being there this season, but they do have Tristan Wirfs and Shaq Mason. It's not like they're like totally dead in the water. And I think it's Mike Evans as the main threat in this offense. We don't know when Chris Godwin's coming back. He got injured in week 15 of last season. When did he get injured? Way later than that. No, tore his ACL in week 15. We don't know when he's going to come back. He's most likely starting the season on the PUP list, and they don't have to rush him back. They just extended him for 3 years. And what kind of player are you going to get, and what kind of quarterback do you have to throw to him when he does get back on the field?
I think he comes back early because it's Tom Brady's potential last season.
Yeah, I mean that's that. They don't have to rush him back, and that's all I'm saying. But either way, I
rely on Darden and Tyler Johnson.
No, I think Russell Gage. I think Russell Gage is a value right now. I think Mike Evans, if you have him on your roster, you're not selling. You're holding him, and you're a win now team. Darden, Perryman, and Scotty Miller, deep as the well goes, throw him a dime, someone will catch it. But I'm not really interested in those players. But Russell Gage, I am interested in. Yep. He's going to be the wide receiver 2 on that team. He was recruited by Brady. He's a week-to-week flex play for your dynasty rosters and has upside due to Tom Brady. He was having the best career of his career, year of his career last year. 70% catch rate, 770 yards, only 14 games. I think you can line him up for an easy 5 for 55 and an occasional touchdown game at week to week this season. And that's what you want out of your flex play on your dynasty roster.
And you know what else you want that's also super easy? It's called Underdog Fantasy. So the NFL offseason has everyone hyped, but you don't want to join another startup because you're like, I don't have time. Well, guess what you can do? You can go download the Underdog app right now, hit pause, go download it. It'll only take 8 seconds if you got good Wi-Fi. Then use code DHH to have your deposit up to $100 matched right away. Free money for something you're going to play anyway because we're all degenerates. So go get some free money. Enter yourself into the rookies and sophomore draft. There's MLB on there right now. NFL best balls, which are a lot of fun. Over-under predictions for in-season, which is where I tend to make more money, is in the prop bets. So don't miss out on this deal. Once again, it's code DHH for your deposit up to $100. And they also have Best Ball Mania is going on, which is the huge $3 million winner. Crazy tournament. If you win that tournament, you're making more than a lot of NFL players. Let's put it that way. And you did it from the comfort of your home. And because you listened to Dynasty Happy Hour and you used our code DHH on Underdog. So you're welcome in advance. We'll take a small percentage of your winnings. Just kidding. No, we won't. But you can give it to us. We won't complain. All right, let's move on to the AFC. I'm going to start with the AFC South champions last year. The number 1 seed in the AFC And this team has had a lot change in the offseason.
Oh, yeah.
It is the Tennessee Titans. So Ryan Tannehill is still your quarterback. They draft Malik Willis, who slips all the way down to the 3rd round. We get Derrick Henry back healthy after his Liz Frank injury last year. They go out and draft Hassan Haskins late in the draft. A lot of people like him. They lose Donta Foreman. I think they still have Dontrell Hilliard, who I like a lot.
Correct.
Had a nice game against my Patriots.
They have Chestnut.
They have Joey Chestnut. He's
Not
eating
Joey.
hot dogs. I know. It's
His brother.
yes, Julius. Orange Julius Chestnut.
Orange Julius Chestnut. Oh my God, it's so good.
Let's
It's
go.
right there.
Let's go. But they trade AJ Brown on draft day to the Philadelphia Eagles for a bunch of picks. They turn around, use one of those picks, and they draft Treylon Burks. Now the off season is like, yeah, he's having a hard time with the air. I don't put much stock into that. But they go out and sign Robert Woods, or they traded for Robert Woods from the Los Angeles Rams, who looks really good recovering from his ACL injury. We've seen some workout videos from him, and he looks normal to me. Like I don't see any hitch in his giddy up. But I like Robert Woods a lot. They move on from their tight ends, pretty much all of them, and they sign Austin Hooper to a deal. So this
Who apparently is building great chemistry with Tannehill
because they're
in
the
offseason.
same player.
They talk on the phone every day.
So there's a lot of new faces in this tennis. So Julio Jones is gone. The only real face that's back is Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. Everyone else is pretty new. And they went out and drafted a rookie quarterback, a rookie receiver, a rookie running back, and a rookie tight end. So 4 new offensive pieces for the future, I think, because I think Haskins, Chigaquanko, and Burks and Willis can all play. So this is going to be interesting because I think they're trying to do almost like a soft rebuild while they're still competitive, which is really tricky to pull off.
It's a Steelers-esque situation.
Yep.
So it's for me, for the Titans, it really comes down to how much juice does Derrick Henry have left, and what can we expect from Treylon Burks and Robert Woods in this passing game? It's probably one of the hardest teams to kind of figure out going into this season. We know they have a good coaching staff with Mike Vrabel. We know they've got a winning pedigree. They've won games. They were the number 1 seed in the AFC last year, for Christ's sakes. So they should be back and good. They lost some pieces on defense too. So this is an interesting team. James, what do you think about the Titans? Is there anyone here that you're more intrigued by, or you're just kind of like, this is roll of the dice type of team?
I like Hassan Haskins because you were getting him late in rookie drafts. He can catch and knock people over. He was a 4th-round pick from Michigan, 1,100 yards, 20 touchdowns, 18 receptions on 22 targets. I like that. He's a perfect taxi slot candidate for Dynasty. Dontrell Hilliard did great in the 8 games we saw him last year, averaged 9 fantasy points per game. That's okay. But it's really Derrick Henry's job still to lose, and I don't think that he's going to lose much of a step after resting this whole offseason. I think he's going to be okay. He did get rushed back late last year during the playoffs, and he did not look the same. But, come on. The guy fractured his foot. Of course he's not going to look the same. It's taped up with 10 rolls of masking tape before a playoff game. It's not going to look the same. I like the addition of Bobby Trees. I'm always a big Bobby Trees fan, and I think he fits the offense perfect.
He translates to any offense. You can just put him anywhere. Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill is a creature of habit as far as leading a player in the middle of the field, and that's where Bobby Trees can actually, just get open. He just gets open all the time.
Player.
He's a great route runner. You can use him in a lot of ways. I think we see Treylon Burks getting mixed in probably within the first, 3 to 6 games.
Nick Westbrook-Akina, right? He's still there.
Westbrook-Akina is still there, but I think it's Treylon Burks' job to lose.
For sure.
As the wide receiver 2. I don't think he's the wide receiver 1, and I don't think he puts up wide receiver 1 numbers for the team. I really think it's Bobby Trees.
They did draft the kid out of Stanford, who a lot of people like. UCLA's Phillips. Kyle Phillips. A lot of people like Kyle Phillips.
Wilson
too.
Phillips.
You know what you gotta do in Dynasty? You gotta hold on.
Yeah. For me with these guys, CMC with Derrick Henry. Pretty much. If you got him, you're holding because he's worth more to your roster than you're going to get because he's at that point. He's at that point in his career where if it's 1 or 2 more years, which is fine. And Jeff, like you said, Henry may lose a step, but 75% of Derrick Henry is still an RB1.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like, okay, he's going to get 20 carries a game,
I mean, the guy's named the King for a reason.
Yeah, and his workout videos still insane. He's running up a hill at full speed, pretty much faster than a freight
Carrying
train.
a school bus.
He's so large and so quick. It's not even fair. He could have that AP style career where it's just he's 31 and then all of a sudden hits 32 and boom, he disappears. Like that. That's what it could just be. I'm not a big Haskins fan. That's why I'm picking up Chestnut all over the place. A lot of reports have been positive about him. He's a good runner, and I think he profiles better in this offense.
Early adopter, Julius Chestnut.
Yeah.
Just saying. You heard it here first.
And for me, Treylon Burks is going to be interesting, to say the least. Like, he's all over the place. So for me, I was listening to Establish the Run with Evan Silva and Adam Levitan, and they had Harmon on, and Harmon was talking about he doesn't believe it's asthma. He actually thinks it's because he's out of shape. Because if he had asthma, why didn't this come out sooner? Why wasn't it in college? And can the air really just like the difference in air?
The foothill of the Smoky Mountains over there has got a lot of pollen.
I mean, that's the rumor.
It's the ginseng.
For me, if he's truly out of shape, for me, honestly, I'd rather have him be out of shape than have asthma. For me,
what happens if it's both?
Oh God! I mean, he
can't get in shape because of the asthma.
How fast can he run pulling an oxygen tank?
It could be asthma.
Can he strap it to his back? Is that part of the uniform code?
What's the over under on oxygen use on the sidelines this season for Treylon Burks?
For me, that's not the big difference for me because he's gonna probably be like a 70% type player for his career. That's what he kind of profiles as because he's kind of got a little Debo to him. He's used differently than a lot of receivers were in college. So for me, it's all about the style of offense they bring with Burks in and how often he gets targeted. He could be a huge steal in drafts right now because he's fallen. Or he could be the biggest bust of this class and just hurt so many people. He could be N'Keal Harry. Like, that option is there. The warning signs were there. And now there's even more warning signs about his physical ability, which is what we were depending on.
I have one share of Treylon Burks, and if it doesn't work out, I won't be as sour.
I'm not.
Just remember, Jamar Chase couldn't catch passes because the ball was too long.
I mean, this is different.
This is completely different. He can't even be on the field. That's a little different.
And it doesn't seem like Vrabel is very happy with Burks because he's been unavailable, and every time they talk about him, Vrabel just looks pissed off at the world.
All right, 120 targets, Bobby Trees,
at least. All right, let's move on let's go to Indy. Didn't have a ton of changes here in the offseason, but they did change their quarterback for the third year in a row. They've gone from Phillip Rivers to Carson Wentz, and now to Matt Ryan.
I'll miss you.
Yeah, the backfield remains largely the same. Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Hines. Marlon Mack is gone. He's off to another AFC South team, which we'll talk about here in a moment. Jack Doyle retires, which kind of opened the door for Mo Alley Cox. They re-signed him to a long-term deal. They still have Kylan Granson, and they draft Jelani Woods, who I think is a project. It's going to be a couple of years for Jelani Woods.
An old project. He's already old. So
yeah, that's true. And then at wide receiver, everyone's on Michael Pittman in Dynasty, deservingly so. I think Pittman is a great player. They draft Alec Pierce in the second round, so they've got him. And then Paris Campbell, who's there to play at least 3 or 4 games. But they lose Zach Pascal to the Eagles, who is a quality depth piece for them. But Ashton Doolin, if you want a deep sleeper for Dynasty, he flashed a little bit last year. But I think Matt Ryan is the story here. He's already got rave reviews out of camp, being able to throw it into tight windows. Matty Ice is a good player. He's going to play with the best offensive line of his career in front of him. He's not going to be running for his life. He's got arguably the best running back in football behind him. And he's got a young up-and-coming receiver in Michael Pittman. So I like a lot about this Indianapolis Colts offense. I'm just really interested to see, we know Pittman's going to get his, but who's going to be the second guy in that passing game? Is it going to be Naheem Hines?
So,
could be.
So James.
Yeah.
Paris Campbell. You can call him the Eiffel Tower.
Yep.
You can.
I don't want to, though.
It's legal.
It may be like a gift store version. Like the gift shop style.
I mean,
version.
if I had to nickname him anything, I'd probably call him Les Miserables or something like that. Because he's been freaking terrible.
Yeah, and T.Y. Hilton's still a free agent, so maybe he makes a return with the team on a cheap veteran deal because they don't really have much depth They have Pittman, Campbell, and then they have Pierce, and then guys like
I
Thielen,
like
so-
Pierce as a dart throw, 4th-round rookie out of Cincy, 800 yards, 8 touchdowns. He
Great
was a
athletic
field
profile
stretcher.
for Alec Pierce.
Yeah, I think if there's anybody, if you don't believe in Paris Campbell, then go out and try to acquire Alex.
He looked
Alec
great in the one
Pierce.
game he played last year.
So for me, the biggest dart throw and the biggest buy is Kyle's grandson.
Kylan's grandson.
No, honestly, Kyle Granson.
I like Kylan Granson.
He's
like a Trey Burton, but better.
Everybody's off because they drafted a couple tight ends.
Jelani Woods, and they
This
still
guy-
have Mo Alley Cox.
Yeah, which is he's a good blocker. For me, the best option, especially Matt Ryan, who loves throwing it to middle of the field when he's in trouble, is Kyle Granson. Like, this is a perfect fit, and people are off. Like, he is a perfect
He's a
throw-in for
forgotten
trades.
man. Like, people
The
are like,
only
oh yeah,
reason why-
Kylan Granson. That's right. He's
I
a
agree
player.
with you that Kylan Granson is a talent that should be had, but the only reason why we're all off of them right now is because there are 3 of them in the back in rotation. I mean, if Mo Alley Cox gets what him and Doyle combined for over 600 yards and 7 touchdowns last year, that'd be tight end. That'd be a tight end 1. That'd be a low end tight end 1. Why wouldn't he? He's the most experienced tight end in the backfield.
He's a good blocker. He's a good blocker, and Doyle was a good blocker. They need that in, like, their offensive line is good. It's not as good as it was. So they're going to need a big man there. That's not Kylan Granson. He's not a big man.
No, he's a move
pass
tight
catcher.
end.
Yeah, 100%. So for me, they're going to use him a lot more than we think. And me personally, he could be the sneaky tight end that we're all kind of fading for no reason because Jelani Woods comes in and we think he's
Granson,
be a
could
starter.
I see him catching 50, 60 passes? Sure.
Yeah, 100%. And all you need is what, Doug? 30 yards and a touchdown.
Tight end 1. Let's go.
Tight end 1.
It's real easy to do. It's real easy to do. Check it out. That's a Humpty Dance reference for all you cool kids out there. And if you got that, bonus points for you. I have never gotten busy in a Burger King bathroom, but it's on my bucket list. All right, that's about it for the Colts. There's not a whole lot shaking there.
Can we talk about Houston? Because I want to melt faces.
Yes, let's talk about Houston, and we'll finish up with Jacksonville here. So Houston didn't make a move at the quarterback position, which made me and Tyler go from 6 to midnight because Davis Mills still in the house, still the starter. Pep Hamilton's the OC. Lovie Smith still the head coach. Why are you going to interrupt me?
Because I'm going to melt faces.
You can just wait. Wait for me to do my thing.
Okay,
This is what we do.
I got my blowtorch ready.
Yes. So Brandon Cooks re-signs a long-term deal. Nico Collins, 2nd year. They've got guys like Chris Conley. They draft John Mechie, who's coming off an ACL injury. So see if he factors in this year at all. My man Brevin Jordan, one of my biggest dynasty buys at tight end. I gave out some really nice stats when Chef and I had our solo podcast a couple weeks ago when Tyler was gone. Just go back and listen to that. But Brevin Jordan,
spark of Brevin Jordan.
He's that spark guy. Loved him coming out of Miami. There's no reason for him not to double or triple his production here in year 2. At the running back position, David Johnson, he's gone.
He's gone.
They draft Damian Pierce, who a lot of people like. I know he's a small sample size guy.
I like him.
Rex Burkhead is back because, Nick Caserio, the former Patriots GM, is their GM, so he's got to do him a solid. And then we've got Marlon Mack. They signed him as a free agent, so for all intents and purposes, he should be their starter starting the season. So I think there's a lot of interesting pieces here in Houston. But I was the most psyched for Davis Mills because I liked what I saw from Davis Mills as a rookie last year, who kind of got thrown into it, and no one expected him to start games. And there was games where he looked really, really good. He was a QB1, I think, 2 or 3 times in the last 6 or 7 weeks of the season.
He was actually QB10 over the last 4 weeks of the season with 17.8 fantasy points per game.
Davis Mills was sneaky good. Tyler and I went out and acquired him in the offseason or during the season even. I can't remember what it was. To be our QB3 in the Superflex League that we just dominated.
Won the champ.
We just crushed faces.
All right. I'm going to melt faces.
Yeah,
I thought of this when I was laying my son down. I thought to myself,
son,
the quarterback, if you are kind of quarterback needy in a super flex league, quarterbacks hold the most value. So I was thinking about it. I'm like, what would I give for Davis Mills right now if I haven't had my rookie draft? 102 is what I came up with. And I am perfectly fine with that because me personally, I don't think the receivers are going to produce like we have seen lately. I think they're going to be around the 800 to 900 yards, 8 to 9 touchdowns. Like, I don't think they're going to produce as crazy as we think. So for me, give me a potential quarterback one with a team on the rise, I think, because Houston has done some pretty good things for me. They've actually made some good picks. They've accumulated draft picks. They've done a lot of good things. So for me, I'm good with 102. Like Dave in the chat, Davis Mills over Drake London. Like for me, in midseason, this is a scenario I could see real. Mills is a quarterback one. Drake London is getting 5 catches for 60 yards as an average for the first 6 to 8 games. Mills is going to have more value in a Superflex league in 8 games. And that scenario is real. Like I could get Drake London plus for a team that is actually very quarterback needy. And if Mills produces decent this year, I think his job is safe. Because I think Houston in this division can win more games than we think. And they're not going to be in the running for the quarterbacks next year, which I think people are overhyping the quarterbacks in 2023 class because I see 2 stars and then a bunch of we'll sees. So for me, I'm all in on Davis Mills. Like I'm okay giving up 102 if you need a quarterback. If you are so desperately needing a quarterback, I'm good with that.
I don't know if I would give up my first round pick for Davis Mills.
I gave up 110 in February.
That's a little bit more realistic. I don't know if I would give him
February. I mean, I overpaid in February, and I'm still willing to overpay in July.
I think he's definitely a buy right now with upside in his second year. We saw him find rhythm down the stretch with Cooks. I think that rhythm continues. I think we still see if you're a competing team and Brandon Cooks is out there, I would try to go and acquire him on the cheap because he's a ticking time bomb as far as age. But I think he still produces. He's a low end wide receiver 2. He finished wide receiver 20 last year. I don't have a problem with that. There's a couple pieces that I like. I think Marlon Mack is a sleeper, especially in redraft. He's going really, really late.
Yeah, I think if Mack doesn't,
there's a lot of ifs on this team.
If
that's
Mack
the
doesn't,
whole thing.
If Mack in his return to Indy, if they don't play Mark Morrison, Return of the Mac, I'm going to be very disappointed. Return of the Mac.
Oh my God.
If they don't
you
play
lied
that song for
to
him,
me. You said you wouldn't rush for 100 yards. You lied to me.
But I really like Houston. Like, I like John Mechie. I love the style of play. They've got their basketball team. They got Nico Collins, the big jump ball guy. They got Brandon Cooks, the speeds are down the field. And they got John Mechie, the short intermediate route guy with Brevin Jordan. This team, like what if they draft Bijan next year? Like who? Like Bijan.
Yeah. They're definitely going to draft. If Pierce doesn't hit, they're definitely, even if Pierce is like good, I think they'd still draft a running back, to be completely honest.
Bijan's going to be a top 10 pick, which if they're 8 or 9, I would not be surprised if Texans are like, hey, stay in Texas. We got you.
Yeah. Bring some fans into the building.
I like Dameon Pierce, man. 16 total touchdowns.
I don't know what to think.
Senior year.
23 years old.
Had 100 attempts.
I don't care about his age, but like
it's
just a small sample size.
Yards. Yeah, small sample size. He might still have a lot to.
He is Samaje Perine.
Don't tell me that.
He's the third down back for Cincinnati Bengals. What?
You mean Chris Evans, right?
Oh yeah, he should be Chris Evans.
It is Chris Evans this year. We talked about that on
Captain
the Spark
America
episode as well.
We did. All right, let's move on to our last team of the evening, and that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Lots of movement for them in the offseason. Trevor Lawrence looking to build off his disappointing rookie year, and I'm not too worried about Trevor Lawrence in Dynasty. Travis Etienne trying to get on the field and play an NFL game. You know, he suffered a Liz Frank injury. They shelved him for the year.
So fancy of an injury.
All the workout videos have been like everyone's drooling, and you know, Travis Etienne's stock has gone up quite a bit. He's my RB2 in Scott Fishbowl, by the way. So looking forward for some big things from Travis Etienne. You know, they go out and they sign Christian Kirk to an absolutely absurd deal. $20 million, resetting the market briefly until like 4 other receivers got more money. Marvin Jones is back with his red zone targets. Laviska Shenault.
Where is he? I don't know.
You know, this makes me so angry because I've always liked Laviska Shenault. It's a copycat league. Just use them like they use Debo. Like, come on. Like,
you mean Traylon Burks, right?
Sure. So Laviska is still there. They re-signed Laquan Treadwell, who looked really good for them actually last year. Don't laugh.
I'm laughing at Dave's comment.
Liz Frank does sound
yeah.
Can I get a
Liz Frank?
A Liz Frank
Liz
injury and a side of Grey Poupon. so lots of things. And then tight end, they signed Evan Ingram, who's disappointed over the last couple of years because New York just didn't know how to use him. Hey, can you run 5-yard slants till your face falls off?
And not drop
Thanks. Yeah. So Evan Ingram, great athlete, great rookie season, historic rookie season at the tight end position. And then it was all downhill from there. Yeah. So maybe Evan Ingram can resurrect his career a little bit. James Robinson tore his Achilles. So
don't know when he's going to return.
I can't imagine he's going to start the season. I don't think he's going to do a Cam Akers. But we'll see about that. And then they drafted, what's the running back they drafted there?
Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Oh,
Snoop it wasn't Snoop Connor. Right?
Snoop Connor.
Snoop-a-loop.
Snoop-a-doop.
Yeah, which a buddy of mine, Al, was huge on before the draft. And when he got taken the 5th round was like, see, I told you so. But you know what? I like him in Jacksonville with Etienne. They're a good pairing.
Yeah, I think Etienne's ceiling is massive.
It's Kamara Swift-esque.
Yeah,
for sure. So, I mean, we've obviously seen that baked into his ADP. Every month that you check it on DLF, it's like, who's one of the largest risers? It's Travis Etienne.
Running back 18 currently.
Yeah, and it's going to go up. It's going to go up even from there. We're going to get reports about him looking this, and then they're going to say preseason games, and it's just going to keep going up.
And then some French guys can be like, Etienne, Les Franck.
Oh, Etienne, look out for the Les Franck injury.
Yeah, no more Les Franck. Etienne, number 1.
So, James, what do you think about this Jacksonville Jaguars offense? Can Trevor Lawrence bounce back in year 2?
I think he can bounce back in year 2. He has all the weapons that they went out and got for him. Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, I think, and Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram, most importantly, I think they didn't really have a tight end to lean on last year. I think they swapped out Dan Arnold. Dan Arnold and James O'Shaughnessy and whoever else was there. I think Evan Ingram on the 1-year, $9 million prove-it deal. Excuse me. No. Wow. That's going to have to be edited.
The fantasy forces are trying to stop you.
I'm getting choked up talking about my love for Evan Ingram.
Yeah.
No.
They're like, James, not again. Don't do it.
Does it work out?
I force choked.
I think he is a weapon for Trevor Lawrence.
There's so many jokes there.
Yeah. I got force choked. Oh, man. But that sucked. Anyway, I think Trevor Lawrence steps up in his 2nd year with Doug Peterson, knows how to utilize a quarterback, knows how to utilize the tight end. We saw Zach Ertz flourish in a system from Doug Peterson. I think Ingram can do the same. Christian Kirk, I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1, but I don't want any of the wide receivers. I want Lawrence, Etienne, and maybe some Ingram on this team. Other than that, I'm staying away from the rest.
Yeah, I love Trevor Lawrence. I had him in a bunch of Devy leagues. I traded the world for him, and
there are some Chase for him.
That's true. And I honestly, in a super flex league, if I'm quarterback needy, it sucks, but I'm not as depressed as I would be if I traded for Fields. So there's that. For me, Trevor Lawrence, you watched him last year. He struggled with accuracy. It's there, but when your mind isn't really on football and it's about the destroying of the locker room that
getting
Urban
chased,
Meyer did,
getting chased in the backfield,
and your kicker getting kicked, like that whole season should be wiped from everybody because it was a disaster. Urban Meyer was terrible. I'm shocked Trevor Lawrence wasn't even worse because he started off in Fuego week 1, 3 touchdowns. Like we all like, this is it. He's the king. He's the next Andrew Luck. And then it was all downhill, just like the Jags season.
He went, 8 straight weeks without a touchdown pass or something ludicrous? It was a lot.
It was rough.
It was
really
bad.
His accuracy issues, there was the offense. The offense was not great.
I just blame Urban Meyer for everything, for being such an
honestly,
asshat.
You could do that. It's easy.
Honestly, that's kind of my mulligan for this whole team. Etienne, I said it last year after the injury. Etienne avoided the season of Urban Meyer, so his value stayed good. Like
Exactly,
his value was perfect,
if not better than it was
because
last year.
his value could have just fallen off the face of the earth because Urban Meyer's trying to play him in this Paris Campbell, Curtis Samuel type role, which was ridiculous to start off with. So for me, Etienne's value was awesome. It was safe. I'm fine with him missing the season because of Urban. And it's all dependent on Trevor Lawrence. But Trevor Lawrence now has his best friend in Etienne, who could catch 60 passes because Trevor Lawrence is like, okay, my offensive line isn't doing well.
I think
I'm going to
60 is
dump it
low.
off. It could be. And for me, the wide receivers never got open. Like they weren't good last year. Chenault, he wasn't very successful. DJ Chark got hurt.
Treadwell was their best receiver,
which is insane to say.
and
That's
Zay Jones.
gross.
Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones was. I mean, why are we hyping him up anymore?
I mean, Zay Jones is on Jacksonville now, right?
Yes.
Yes. So for me, Christian Kirk, there's something he's good at, and it's getting open, and it's getting open quick. Trevor Lawrence, he's got a great release. It's a quick release. I think they signed the right player. And Doug Peterson, if you don't like him, that's fine. He won a Super Bowl with Philly, but you know what he's good with? He's good with young quarterbacks, and he's a perfect fit with Trevor Lawrence.
I mean, he made Carson Wentz look good.
I mean, we're talking about impossibles here.
Put him in the Hall of Fame now.
Yeah, right? You made Carson Wentz look good. What'd you do? I read him
he
a
turned
book
Nick
every
Foles
night.
into a Super Bowl champion. So
You put some respect on that name. Excuse me.
Oh.
BDN.
BDN.
So for me, I'm back in on Trevor Lawrence. It struggles because Jacksonville's going to Jacksonville. I don't think they're going to be a team that's good for a while unless Trevor Lawrence becomes this king that we all thought before. Can he be good and not great? Yes, those are outcomes. But for me, I still think he's got a chance to be a top 5 superflex quarterback because of the youth. The talent is there. So for me, the dip that has happened on Trevor Lawrence, I'm dipping all the chips I can.
You're buying the
again.
dip.
Yes.
Which
Every dip has what? Sour cream in it. Cream cheese, sour cream, whatever it is.
Yeah. Spinach artichokes? I don't know.
I think that's
So,
mayo.
Yeah, I think that's a good recap of Jacksonville. I think they're I think this whole AFC South is just ripe with very interesting situations.
100%.
Like
good
we look at
defenses.
every single team on here, and you're like, interesting. Like there's no rock solid except for Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor. I mean, there's no rock solid like, oh, this will happen. It's a lot of we don't know. So
Michael
it's a very
Pittman, I would write
But
it.
Pittman.
Would you guys have Pittman as a wide receiver 1 ending this year? Top 12?
Yes.
I think he'll be right there. I think he'll be
value
right in that area.
His value is right there. Now
he's like wide receiver 13, isn't he? Like right now.
Yeah, in a recent trade I did, I actually offered a first and a second for Pittman, a 23 first and a 23 second for Pittman. So for me, he said no. I'm like, okay, I get that. But I offered the same for Bateman, and it was like an instant accept. Like I could have just got him for cheaper. So I think Pittman might be hitting that
ceiling,
the cap ceiling of value to where you could be like, what if Matt Ryan did fall off? What if he isn't as good as he is? Like there's scenarios where you can start thinking about, okay.
And then the Colts will be like, man, 3 years in a row, we've got
we've got
the ass end of the loaf of bread.
As Andrew Luck is just like sitting there.
Just chilling.
All 150 pounds of
dip.
him.
Yeah, I was going to say, he does not look like Andrew Luck anymore. So
yeah, reading a book with his flip phone. Yeah, it's crazy. So I think that's going to wrap us up this week. Thank you for joining us once again. Before we leave, though, make sure you check out dynastynerds.com and sign up for the Nerd Herd. Use code DHH for 15% off of any subscription. There's trade tools, extra Nerd Herd episode, prospect film room, prospect scores, and the Dynasty GM. And if you're looking for some new threads, you got the itch because you just bought a Scott Fishbowl t-shirt, whether that was on RotoWear or through the sites on Etsy. Go on Verdi and Global. We've got a lot of cool DHH stuff on there, too, that you can find. So if you got that itch, go ahead and scratch it. we're gonna get out of here for this week. What are we doing next week? We doing the
North.
We're doing the
North.
West last.
We got it. We have to save the West.
The West is best when it comes to fantasy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially AFC West. That's going to be a
That'll be a fun
show
one.
of the ages.
That'll be a fun one. So thanks again for joining us. Make sure you check out Apple iTunes. Leave us a rating and review so we can get bumped up and get easily found and support the love. And like I said, make sure if you're watching us on YouTube, like and subscribe. Thank you for tuning in to everyone in the chat. Much love. Hope you're here next week when we come back on the Dynasty Happy Hour.